He ghosted me after Christmas. It began in the golden haze of autumn, when the leaves in Central Park were starting to crisp, and the city felt like it was holding its breath before winter. I wasn't looking for love. I'd just moved into my new apartment in Brooklyn, determined to make a fresh start after a year that had been, to put it mildly, less than kind. My name is Olivia, and if you'd asked me back then, I would have said romance was something I'd left behind. But then there was him. His name was Ethan. I met him at a mutual friend's holiday party. A messy, laughter-filled affair where the air smelled of cinnamon, pine, and red wine. He wore a ridiculous sweater covered in dancing reindeer, and when he smiled at me from across the room, it was as if all the noise and chaos faded away for a moment. We made eye contact, and he raised his glass. I smiled back, my heart skipping in a way it hadn't in a long time. We ended up talking for hours, tucked into a corner behind a sagging Christmas tree. He told me about his job at a small bookshop in the East Village and his love of old movies. I told him about my writing, my obsession with peppermint mochas, and my dreams of seeing the Northern Lights. There was an ease between us that felt rare, like we'd found a secret shortcut to intimacy. After the party, he walked me to the subway. The city was shimmering with holiday lights, snow drifting lazily from the sky. He brushed a flake from my hair and, in a moment so gentle it felt like it belonged to someone else, he kissed me. I remember thinking, maybe this is what hope feels like. The days that followed were a blur of warmth. We texted constantly. Memes, stories, confessions whispered late at night when the world felt small and safe. We went ice skating at Rockefeller Center, our laughter echoing against the cold. We made cookies in his cramped kitchen, burning half the batch and eating the rest under a blanket of twinkling lights. We watched classic films by candlelight, our hands entwined. Christmas was magical. He gave me a copy of my favorite book, its pages annotated with his thoughts and doodles. I gave him a scarf I'd knitted, each stitch shaped by hope and the thrill of maybe. We shared secrets over hot chocolate, promises whispered under the mistletoe. He told me he'd never felt this way before, and I believed him. I let myself believe in us. Then, as the wrapping paper settled and the tree needles scattered, something changed. It was subtle at first, a delayed reply, a missed call. I told myself it was the holiday chaos, that everyone got busy. But soon, his absence became a presence, a shadow that grew longer each day. The texts stopped, the calls went unanswered, my words hung in the void, echoing back at me. I replayed every conversation, every moment, searching for the crack I must have missed. Had I said something wrong? Was it something I did? The uncertainty gnawed at me, hollowing out the joy he'd brought, leaving only questions. As New Year's approached, I held out hope. Maybe he'd reach out, maybe there was an explanation. But the clock struck midnight, and my phone stayed silent. The city erupted in fireworks, but all I felt was the ache of emptiness. Ghosted. It's such a strange word, isn't it? It sounds almost playful, but the reality is anything but. It's a vanishing act, a sudden erasure, leaving you to haunt the ruins of what could have been. I told myself I was fine, but the truth is, I missed him. I missed his laugh, his words, the way he made the winter feel less cold. But life, as it always does, went on. The snow melted, the city shrugged off the weight of winter, and spring crept in with its promise of renewal. I threw myself into my writing, poured my heart into stories that weren't about him, but always were. I took long walks through Prospect Park, letting the green buds remind me that beginnings are always possible. One afternoon, months later, I found myself in the East Village, drawn by nostalgia or maybe just habit. I ducked into his bookshop, heart pounding. He wasn't there. The clerk, a kind woman with a silver braid, smiled at me. "Looking for something special?" she asked. I almost said his name. Instead, I picked up a book and wandered the aisles, letting the smell of paper and ink soothe me. When I left, I felt lighter, as if by returning to the place we'd shared, I'd reclaimed a piece of myself. Slowly, I let him go, not because I stopped caring, but because I realized that love, real love, doesn't disappear without a word. I learned to cherish the good memories and accept the unanswered questions. I forgave him, and I forgave myself. And then, unexpectedly, I met someone new. It wasn't a lightning bolt, but a gentle unfolding, a friendship that blossomed into something more. He was patient, kind, and present. He laughed at my stories and listened to my silences. He didn't disappear. Looking back, I see that Ethan was the winter before my spring, the necessary cold that made me appreciate the warmth. He ghosted me after Christmas, and it hurt. But in the empty space he left behind, I found room to grow. Love isn't always a fairy tale. Sometimes, it's a lesson. Sometimes, it's the beginning of a better story. And sometimes, it's the courage to start again, even after your heart's been left out in the cold. So if you've ever been ghosted, know this: you're not alone. The ache will pass, and in its place, new hope will bloom. The holidays may come and go, but your story is far from over.